This video is going to talk about basic building of our very basic numbers, but starting and then building up. So these are some poker chips that I got from the Dollar Tree. You could have students start with things like this. They're just going to build, but you want to teach them patterns for these early numbers. So we're going to teach one, and we're also going to have the concept of one, applying one. There is one classroom, everybody in it, right? There is one color that we like. You know what I mean? I'm going to have everybody stand in one corner. So dividing and applying one, and then we'll go into two. Two is a line, typically is how it's represented, both on the dice patterns and in the wooden patterns. So again, having the two, right? We have the quantity of two, but also showing this is also two, right? Here's the quantity of two and talking about, spelling it out and so on and so forth. And applying two, I need two students to come up here. We're going to get in two groups. Again, talking about the two-ness of two. So then we go into three. Three is usually represented in two different ways. In wooden, it's represented as a triangle because pattern shapes are a little bit easier for younger students to recognize. It's also recognized as an angled line of three within dominoes and dice. So three, again, talking about the quantity and the representation. Four, we're going to do as a square. We can also draw the four. Five is typically a cross or an X. Six has two representations usually. Three like that, or a 5 and 1 up above, and this can be a 6. And 7 is where we really begin the combination of numbers, and you can do combination numbers like 5 and 2 being 7 and talking about these different numbers. So that would be how you would do it in terms of your basic dot patterns. We can also talk about it with tallies. And tallies, you can use these as tally marks. You can do, a 1. You can do a 2 is in the same shape. You can do a 3 like this, or you can do a 3 like this. 4 could be a square, but obviously with tallies, the main goal is always to get up to 5, right? We want to get up to that 5 and then start adding on, knowing this is 6, knowing this is going to be 10, and we're going to bundle. We're going to do our arms to wrap to bundle when we get to 10. So the tally marks and dot patterns should be used fairly interchangeably at first because you want students to get used to both of those. I also make flashcards for students to work with when they're beginning. Here's the 1, obviously. I have a flashcard for 0 because we always want to include 0. Here's the 2, demonstrating how you can draw on this. Here's our 2. Our 5, you can draw like this. And again, this isn't dot math. This is just allowing them to kind of have a visual representation of seeing that number kind of within the dots. A 3, if it was a little closer, you could see it. The 4, we draw on here. And this. So that's the 4 square, and that's the dot. And the 1 is just a straight line through. So you can hold these up, have students hold up the same number of fingers. Who can hold up the same number of fingers? You could say, okay, what's this? And they have to say 3 and hold up 3 fingers. You could do, and they can also practice drawing on top of it. 5, hold up 5 fingers. So using the fingers as a near point reference is a good thing. Have them jump 5 times. Use gross motor reinforcement of what these numbers mean while they're seeing them, while they're saying them, while they're touching them. So when that comes to dot patterns and how you can use worksheets with them, you can talk about making patterns in different ways to make that same number. So here's 5 plus 2 makes 7, 4 plus 3 makes 7, and you can use that, of course, with here. We can see, okay, we have 7, how can we put it in different patterns, right? We can see the 3 and the 4, and then the 5 and the 2, and the 1 and the 6. So exploring all the different patterns you can make with your dice, with your craft sticks. So the last thing I'm going to go into is about adding up, building larger numbers with the craft sticks to begin with, and then of course you can move on to your base 10 blocks. But starting with craft sticks, they'll usually come in a group like this. Up to 100, we try to keep them of the same color. So here we have craft sticks, and what you want to do is you want to have students build them, right, to build the 10s. So they would start with these small plastic rubber bands, and you want to have them build them by doing patterns, tally marks 5 and 5, which makes 10, and then bundle. Do that, actually have them acting out the bundling. So one student could be building, another student could be bundling. They could work in pairs and see how many they could get done within 2 minutes. And then you're slowly building a class set with as many hundreds as you have available. And then, of course, once they get to a bunch of these, you're going to have them do the same thing where they do another set of tally marks. And then here, once they get 10 of these, you're going to do a larger hair tie. Ms. Zecker, the instructor in this, actually has those students talk about how you put it in your arm, you know, you go over. And this one, you don't even have to twist it, and you just have your 100. So then you have your hundreds, you have your tens, which again, I still would suggest you try to kind of represent in some sort of pattern, whether it be a triangle or an angle like this. And then you can have your ones, right? And then 1, 2, 3. And of course, these we talked about breaking up into fraction pieces as you build on. So then you would say, okay, we made this number. What did we make? We made 100, 3 tens, and 3 ones. Its name is 133. So talking about building it, naming it, seeing it, touching it, making it as manipulative and hands-on as we can. So that's basically how we're going to build up, and we can get into the thousands with the base 10 blocks. Of course, I talked in the other one video about regrouping, about how you can use these 1 centimeter cubes to make 10 rods. And of course, 10 rods make 100 block. And then we have the 1,000 blocks that we can make. And you can actually make a bunch of those 1,000 blocks if you get 4x4 craft boxes, which are the same size. And then we could actually build up to like 100,000. But I'll talk about that later. So I hope this helps you sort of understand the idea of starting with the very basic numbers and then slowly building up.